Hey guys, I'm T and welcome to the channel. If you're new here, we make trendy and fun crochet tutorials twice a week, and if you haven't already, smash that like button, drop a comment below, and subscribe to join in on the fun. Today I'll be teaching how to make a bell sleeve turtleneck sweater. For this groovy casual make, we took some inspo from yesteryear and went with bodacious bells, a fluffy turtleneck, and for some modern flair, a statement detail courtesy of Alpine. Speaking of, if you're enjoying the Alpine stitch, or any other stitch for that matter, you are in the right place. We have hundreds of modern designs and patterns using various stitches, including new patterns weekly, so consider clicking the bell to subscribe and you'll never miss an upload. Also, do me a huge favor and give this video a big thumbs up if you like it, or 2 thumbs down if you don't. Either way, it's a great way to show support so I can keep putting out free tutorials every Wednesday and Sunday. Now, it's time to get on the show, so without further ado, for this project, any category 4 yarn will work, but I used a total of 450 grams of yarn, and that's 750 yards if you're stateside. As for tools, a 5 and 6 millimeter hook, scissors, stitch markers, and a tape measure. There is a written pattern down below. Use offer code TCDDIY for a discount off any $9.99 plus order, and enter this week's pattern giveaway by telling us if you have any holiday movie traditions. Yes, I have to watch Home Alone 1 and 2 at least once every year, but this year we've probably seen it about 8 times. Details for the giveaway down below. We're using 4 stitches for this project, and they'll be as follows. Chain, slip stitch, single crochet, half double crochet, and double crochet. This tutorial is for size small, but you can adjust it for your size, and we explain how to in the video, so let's get started. Getting the sweater started, we're all going to grab our category 4 yarn and make a slip knot. Next, we're all going to grab our 6 millimeter hook, and we're all going to start by making an odd number chain that reaches from the base of our neck across our chest to the other side of the base of our neck. I need a total of 7 inches or 18 centimeters, so I'm going to start by making a chain of 27. Now that we have our chain, we're going to block off that last chain and do a chain 3. Now that chain 3 doesn't count as a stitch, we just need the height, and that's our turning chain. And we're all going to start by making 4 double crochets. So how we do that is yarn over. Then we're going to insert our hook into that chain that we blocked off, or the 4th chain from our hook. So bring our hook down, into that chain, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. There's our first double crochet. Let's do 3 more. Yarn over, into that following chain, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Again, yarn over, into that following chain, pull through 2, pull through 2. And we need a total of 4 because we're not counting that chain 3, so 1 more. Yarn over, into that next chain, pull through 2, pull through 2. Now that everyone has 4 double crochets, we're now all going to make 4 half double crochets. So yarn over, into that following chain, insert your hook. Yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. Let's do that again. Yarn over, into that next chain, insert, pull through, yarn over, pull through all 3. There's 2 half doubles, let's do 2 more. Yarn over, into that next, pull through 2, and once more, yarn over, pull through 3. Now we should all have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 stitches finished. From here, we're going to be putting 1 single crochet into every chain until we have 8 stitches left. So into that following chain, we're going to insert our hook, yarn over, pull through 2, and again, into that following chain, insert your hook, pull through 2, and continue with 1 single crochet until we have 8 chains left. Now we've made our way all the way across with 1 single crochet into every chain. We should all have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 chains left. Now we're going to finish off this row with 4 half double and 4 double. So yarn over and do your first half double crochet and continue until we have a total of 4 half double crochets. Now that we have our 4 half double crochets, we should have 4 chains left. And we're going to put 1 double crochet into the rest of our chains, so 4 double crochets in total. Our row 1 is all finished. Let's get started on our row 2, so let's all chain 3 and flip our work. Now our row 2 is going to be a little bit different from our row 1. We're going to start with 1 double crochet into each of the next 4 stitches. So yarn over into the last stitch from our previous row with 1 double, into that following with a second, into that following with a third, and then into that following with a 4th double crochet. And now from here we're going to put 1 half double crochet into every stitch until we have 4 stitches left. So I've put 1 half double crochet into every stitch, and we should all have 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches left, and into the last 4 we're going to be putting 1 double crochet into each. So we have just finished up our row 2. Now we're going to get started on our row 3, or our first alpine stitch row, so let's all chain 2 and flip our work. Now every odd number row is going to be our alpine stitch row, and it is always going to start and end with a decrease of 2 half double crochets. So to get that started, we're all going to yarn over. We're going to insert our hook into that last stitch from our previous row, pull through, and then also into that following stitch from our previous row, pull through for 4 loops on our hook, then just yarn over, pull through all 4 loops. And from here we're going to get started on our alpine stitch detail. So it's going to start with 1 front post double crochet, so yarn over, and we're going to be working into our row 2. So taking a look at our row 2, we're going to find the 3rd double crochet from our previous row and insert our hook underneath that body. So there's 1, there's 2, there's 3. Underneath that 3rd, we're going to insert our hook underneath and through the other side, then yarn over, pull through. When we have these 3 loops on our hook, we're going to want to yank our work up tall to get the same height as that decrease of 2 half doubles. Then we're going to yarn over, pull through 2, then yarn over, pull through 2. There's our front post double crochet for our detail. Now it's going to be a half double crochet, so yarn over. Now taking a look at our previous row, we're going to skip that following stitch because this front post double crochet counts as that stitch, and then into that following stitch is where we're going to be inserting with 1 half double crochet. And that is 1 alpine stitch set, a front post double and a half double. Let's do another set together. So let's yarn over. Taking a look at our row 2 again, we're going to find that next available stitch. Now it's not going to be that stitch that's right next to that previous front post double crochet because that half double crochet counts as that stitch. So we're going to find that following stitch and bring our hook down underneath that stitch and through the other side. Then yarn over, pull through, pull up nice and tall, pull through 2, pull through 2, and now to do a half double crochet, we're all going to yarn over. Just like before, skip 1 stitch from our previous row because this front post double crochet counts as that stitch, and then into the following, insert with a half double. Now we should all have 1, 2 alpine stitch sets. Let's just do 1 more a little bit quicker. So yarn over. We're going to find that following available stitch from our previous row, insert, pull through, pull up tall, pull through 2, pull through 2, then yarn over, skip that next stitch from our previous row and into the following, 1 half double crochet. And that's it. We're going to continue to do our front post double and half double crochet, making our way all the way down until we have 3 stitches left. Now we are back. The last stitch that everyone should have done should have been a half double crochet, and we should all have 1, 2, 3 stitches left. Now from here we're going to close off our alpine stitch sets with 1 front post double crochet, and then a decrease of 2 half double crochet to mirror what we have on the other side. So let's all yarn over. Now we're going to bring our hook down underneath that following stitch and through the other side, which should actually be the 3rd stitch from our previous row, making sure that we're not counting that chain 3. So there's 1, 2, 3. Bring our hook underneath, pull through, pull up nice and tall, pull through 2, pull through 2, and now we have 2 stitches left. Technically it is 3 stitches, but remember that 3rd to last stitch counts as that front post double crochet. Now we're going to do a decrease of 2 half doubles, so yarn over, insert your hook into that 2nd to last stitch, pull through, into that last stitch, pull through, yarn over, pull through all 4 of those loops. And that is our row 3. Each of our even number rows is going to be a half double crochet row. So we're all going to chain 2, flip our work, and put 1 half double crochet into every stitch. So we are back and we have just finished up our row 4. Now it's going to be a repeat of rows 3 and 4. So let's chain 2, flip our work, and do the following 2 rows as a refresher. So getting started on any of our Alpine stitch rows, we're going to start with a decrease of 2 half double crochets. So yarn over, insert your hook into that first stitch, pull through, next stitch, pull through, yarn over, pull through all 4. Now from here we're going to get started with our Alpine stitch detail with our front post double crochet. Now when it comes to doing our Alpine stitch detail, each of our stitches needs to be staggered from the previous row, because if we end up putting a front post double crochet into a front post double crochet from our previous row, then we'll just be making some ribbing details, which is nice but not for this pattern. So what we're going to do is yarn over. Now taking a look at our previous Alpine stitch row, we are no longer going to be worked into the previous row, but now into that previous odd number row. So since we're working on row 5, we're going to be inserting into our row 3. We're going to skip the first 2 stitches, and our first 2 stitches is our decrease and our front post double crochet. And then we're going to insert our hook underneath that following stitch, which should be a half double crochet with a front post double crochet. So we're going to bring our hook down, finding that first half double crochet, insert your hook through the other side, pull through, and just like before, we're still going to pull up nice and tall, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And again, our half double crochet, we're going to yarn over, skip that following stitch from our previous row, because this front post double crochet counts as that stitch, and into the following, insert with a half double. So it's pretty much the same thing. Let's just do one more set. Yarn over, find that following stitch from our previous Alpine stitch row, which should be that half double crochet. Bring our hook underneath, through the other side, pull through, pull up nice and tall, pull through 2, pull through 2. Then to do our half double crochet, we're all going to yarn over, skip that following stitch from our previous row, and into the one right after that, 1 half double crochet. And continue on with our Alpine stitch details until we have 3 stitches left again. So we made our way all the way down. Our last stitch that we should have done should have been a half double crochet, and we should all have 1, 2, 3 stitches left. Now what we're going to do from here is a front post double crochet. So we're all going to yarn over, find that half double crochet from our previous Alpine stitch row, bring our hook underneath through the other side. We're going to yarn over, pull through, pull up tall, pull through 2, pull through 2, and then end off our row with a decrease of 2 half double crochets. So yarn over. Bring our hook down into that second to last stitch, pull through, into that last stitch, pull through, yarn over, pull through all 4. And now this Alpine stitch row is all finished. Getting started on our row 6, chain 2, flip our work, and put 1 half double crochet into every stitch. Now from here on out, it's going to be a repeat of rows 5 and 6 until we have a total of 3 stitches left, but that's just so that we can meet back to make sure that we all have the same point. Now if you need the timestamps for any of these rows, those will be linked in the description. We'll go ahead and get this portion finished up until we have 3 stitches left, and then I will meet you back. And if you enjoyed these awesome Alpines, be sure to check out our All About Alpines playlist or any of our other stitch and style specific playlists for your next make. Alright, so I am back, and I have made my way all the way down with my decrease Alpine stitch rows until I have a total of 3 stitches left. Now just to let you guys know, I have a total of 25 rows, and all we're going to do to finish off this portion is do a decrease of 3 half double crochets. So at the end of our row, we're going to chain 2 and flip our work. And what we're going to do is yarn over, insert our hook into that first stitch, pull through, into that second stitch, pull through, and into that third stitch, pull through. We should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 loops on our hook. So from here, yarn over and pull through all 5 of those loops. And we are done with this Alpine stitch detail. So do a chain up of 1 and cut. So now that our little pizza slice is all finished up, we're now going to single crochet along the edge of our piece, and then we can get started on our front panel. So we're all going to make sure that our detail for our Alpine stitch is faced up towards us, and then we're going to be inserting our 5mm hook now into the corner stitch of our Alpine stitch detail. From here, we're going to insert our yarn onto our hook, pull through, do a chain up of 1 to secure, and now we're going to be putting 2 single crochets into every side row that we have. So starting with our first side row right here, I'm going to insert my hook in through that top loop with 2 single crochets. So there's 1, and into that same top loop there is 2. Into that following side loop there is 1, and then again there is 2, and just to do one more together, this is my following side row right over here. Insert with 1 and 2, and I'll continue this until I reach the point of my Alpine stitch detail. So I've made my way all the way down to my point. My last 2 single crochets are worked into my last side row, which was my decrease of 3 single crochets, and all we're going to do from here is chain 1 and insert a stitch marker into that chain 1 so you know where that middle stitch is, and then working our way up the other side of our Alpine stitch detail, continue with 2 single crochets into every side row, and then do a chain up of 1 and cut when we reach that last side row. So our single crochet row along our Alpine detail is finished, and now we're going to get started on the front panel. So we're going to flip our work upside down so the point of our Alpine stitch detail is faced away from us, and we're going to be inserting our 6mm hook into that stitch marker stitch that we have, so that middle stitch. We are now going to insert our yarn onto our hook and pull through, and we're now going to make a chain the length that we'd like for the rest of this piece to be. So making sure that we're placing our first row at the base of our neck, we're going to make this chain either cropped length, full length, or dress, whatever you guys want. I want mine to be slightly cropped, so above my jeans, so I'm going to start by making a chain 10, and that's 2 inches or 5 centimeters. And now that we have our chain, we're going to do a half double crochet row. So block off that last chain and do a chain 2. That chain 2 doesn't count as a stitch, that's our turning chain, and we're all going to yarn over. Inserting our hook into that chain that we blocked off, or the third chain from our hook, we're going to insert, yarn over, pull through all 3. And we're going to continue with 1 half double crochet into every chain until we have 1 chain left. So now that we've put 1 half double crochet into every chain, into that last one, we're going to be doing an increase of 3 half double crochets. So yarn over into that last chain with 1 half double, into that same last chain with 2 half doubles, and then into that same last chain with a third half double crochet. Now from here, we're going to connect it into the base. So we're going to count up the next 2 available stitches. So not this stitch that our chain is in, but this first available stitch, and then this second available stitch, insert with a slip stitch to close off our row 1. And now that our row 1 is closed off, let's get started on our row 2. So what we're going to do is slip stitch into those next 2 available stitches to get the height for the half double crochet. So into that next stitch into the base, insert with a slip stitch, and then into the stitch right after that with another slip stitch. Now keeping in mind that none of these slip stitches into the base count as a stitch, and flip our work. And now working on any even number row, we're going to start with an increase of 2 back loop half double crochets. So yarn over, we're going to find that last stitch from our previous row and insert with 1 back loop half double, and then into that same back loop with a second half double crochet. Now from here, we're going to be putting 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch. So yarn over, find that next available stitch, insert in through that back loop or the loop that's furthest away from us, pull through 3, again yarn over into that next stitch's back loop, pull through 3, and continue with 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch. And at the end of this row, go ahead and chain 2, flip our work, and put 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch, leaving the last one so that we can connect it into the base together and do the increase once more. So we've made our way all the way up with our 1, 2, 3 rows, and for that row 3, we should have left that last stitch, and now we're going to do an increase of 3 back loop half double crochets because that's how we finish off any odd number row. So yarn over, insert your hook into that last stitch's back loop, and insert with 1 into that same back loop with 2, and into that same back loop with 3 half double crochets. And to connect it into the base once more, we're going to count up 1, 2 available stitches, slip stitch into that second stitch into the base. And our row 3 is finished. Since we're here, let's just get started on our row 4, and I'll let you do the rest on your own. So slip stitch up the next 2 available stitches. These 2 slip stitches don't count as a stitch, it's just to work our way up to our following even number row. Flip our work and start our even number row with an increase of 2 back loop half double crochets. So yarn over. Into that last stitch from our previous row's back loop, insert with 1 and 2 half double crochets, and then 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch, and that's it. From here, we're going to continue to repeat these 2 rows until we don't have any more stitches left to work into once we reach the top corner point. Alright, so I am back and I have just made my way all the way up to my top corner stitch with my back loop half double crochets. Now I just want to show you guys really quickly before we get started on our shoulder portion. If the bottom of yours starts to slant or flare out a little bit, that's completely fine. It's normal and it'll all even out once when it's seamed. But what we're going to do from here is the shoulder portion. So this is going to be different whether we end on the bottom or along the top. Now starting with those of you that were lucky enough to end along the top, all you guys are going to do is place this first row for our Alpine stitch detail along the base of our neck, and all you're going to do is make a chain that reaches up to the top of your shoulder. Now I'll show you how to do that in just a second, but for those of us that have actually ended along the bottom, what we are going to do, if we can, is we're just going to take out our hook, and then we're going to insert our hook into this top corner stitch so that we can make our chain. So for those of you that are like me and you need to reinsert your hook along the top, try and grab the tail end of your yarn so that we don't need to do a chain up of 1 and cut along the bottom here, but if you have to, that's completely fine as well. But all we're going to do is insert our hook into this top corner stitch. We are going to insert our yarn onto our hook, pull through, and we're all going to start by making a chain that reaches all the way up to our shoulder, making sure that we're placing this first row at the base of our neck. Now I need just about 2 inches or 5 centimeters, so I'm going to start by making a chain 8. Now for those of us that needed to reinsert our hook along the top because we ended along the bottom, what we are going to do is a chain 1 and cut, and then reinsert your hook along the bottom. But for those of you that ended along the top and just went seamlessly into your chain, all you guys are going to do is chain 2 into that chain that you blocked off, or the third chain from your hook, insert with a half double crochet, and put 1 half double crochet into every chain, and then once we reach the body, put 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch. Now I actually ended along the bottom, so I need to do a chain up of 1 and cut and then reinsert my hook along the bottom. But this shoulder portion is going to be pretty easy. All we're going to do is put 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch, and that is including our chain so that we have a little shoulder portion, until we have a shoulder portion that can reach about the tip of our shoulder. And then I will meet you back right after we have that shoulder portion finished up, right after we do a chain up of 1 and cut. Alright, so I am back with my shoulder portion. For my shoulder portion, I just did an additional 5 rows, so here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and counting from my first half double crochet row all the way to the end, I have a total of 12 inches or 30 centimeters, and I did do a chain up of 1 and cut. Now we're going to repeat everything we did here on the other side. So all we're going to do is just insert our hook into this bottom corner stitch that we have from the chain that we made. And all we're going to do from here is chain 2, put 1 half double crochet into every stitch, making sure that we end off every odd number row with an increase of 3, connecting it into the base the same way, and then starting our following even number row with an increase of 2 back loop half double crochets, and then 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch. Then we're just going to continue to do this until we reach all the way up to our last corner stitch. Then we're going to make the same chain that we made on the other side, and then the same amount of rows for our shoulder portion. Once we have this all finished up, I will meet you back. And now that the entirety of our front panel is finished, we're going to get started with our back panel. And I already have mine done, so I'm just going to talk you guys through it. So first things first, we're all going to start by making a chain for the same amount of stitches that we have for our last shoulder row. So for those of you that have my numbers, I have a total of 57 stitches. So for my back, I made a chain of 57. And all I did was back loop half double crochet rows with no increases and no decreases until it reached from the tip of my shoulder across my back to the other side of the tip of my shoulder. And as a really quick tip, the back panel may be not as wide as the front panel, but that's completely fine. It'll all even out once when it's seamed up. And this is my back panel right here. It's pretty simple, all back loop half double crochet rows. I have a total of 33 rows, and my width is just about 14 inches or 36 centimeters. Once we have the width of our back panel all finished up, I will meet you back so that we can single crochet across the top of our back panel. So single crocheting across the top of our back panel is pretty simple. We're going to start by inserting our 6mm hook into the top corner stitch, and we're going to single crochet across every side row that we have. So we're going to insert our yarn onto our hook, pull through, do a chain up of 1 to secure, and now all we're going to do is alternate between 1 to 2 single crochet into every side row. So just to do the first few, this is my first side row right here. I'm going to find that top loop and insert my hook with 1 single crochet. This is my following side row. I'm going to insert my hook in through there with 2 single crochets. So there's 1 and there's 2. And that's it. We're going to continue this to reach the end of our back panel. Let's just do one more set together. This is my following side row. I'm going to insert into that top loop with 1 single crochet and then into that following top loop with 2 single crochet. And continue this until we don't have any more side rows left to work into. When we don't, do a chain up of 1 and cut, and then I'll meet you back so we can do the same thing across the top of our front panels. And now that we have just single crocheted across the top of our back panel, let's single crochet across the top of our front panels, which is going to be done pretty much the same way. So let's all start by inserting our hook into the top corner stitch of our front panel shoulder. Insert our yarn onto our hook, pull through, and do a chain up of 1 to secure. And now we're going to alternate between 1 to 2 single crochets into every side row. So this is my first side row. I'm going to find that top loop, insert my hook, and single crochet once. Into my following side row, I'm going to insert my hook in through that top loop and insert with 2. And that's it. We're going to continue doing this until we don't have any more side rows left to work into. When we reach the corner, do a chain up of 1 and cut, and then repeat on the other front panel shoulder. Alright, so I am back. We have just finished up single crocheting across the tops of our front and back panel. Now we're going to seam the shoulders. So let's start by placing our front panel on top of our back panel, making sure that the detail that we have is flipped down for the front panel, because once we flip everything right side out, we want to be able to see the detail but without seeing the seam. We're then going to insert our hook into the top corner stitch of both the front and back panel. Insert your yarn onto your hook, pull through, do a chain up of 1 to secure, and now we're going to single crochet, making sure that we're working into both the front and the back panel at the same time. So we're all going to start by inserting our hook into that following stitch into the front panel, into that following stitch into the back panel, and now we're going to single crochet. But if you guys are like me and have some tail ends and don't want to weave them in later, go ahead and just place all your tail ends over your hook. Now we're going to single crochet per usual, and now we don't need to weave in our tail ends. Let's do this again. Into that next stitch into the front panel, insert your hook, next stitch into the back panel, insert your hook, and single crochet. Let's do just one more. Into that next stitch into the front panel, insert, next stitch into the back panel, insert, and single, and we're going to continue this until we don't have any more stitches left to work into, and when we don't, do a chain up of 1 and cut. Then repeat what we just did here on the other side. So we are back. We have just finished up seaming our shoulders, and now we're ready to seam up our sides. So first things first, we're going to need to insert our stitch marker into a stitch where we want our armhole to be. Now I would suggest to try this on and then insert your stitch marker about 1 inch underneath our underarm. I've inserted my stitch marker into the 24th stitch from the top. That's just about 6.5 inches or 17 centimeters. We do want to make sure that our work is still flipped wrong side out, meaning the seam that we just did for the shoulder is along the outside. Then we're going to insert our hook into the bottom corner stitch of both the front and the back panel. Then we're going to insert our yarn onto our hook, pull through, do a chain up of 1 to secure, and we're going to do another single crochet seam just like how we did for the shoulder. So let's all start by finding that first stitch into the front panel, insert, first stitch into the back panel, insert, and single crochet. And we're just going to continue doing this until we reach our stitch marker. When we do a chain up of 1 and cut, and then repeat on the other side. So now that we're all finished up with our seam, we're now going to get started on our sleeve. So first things first, let's make sure that our work is flipped right side out, right side up. Then we're going to insert our hook into any one of the stitches that's nearest to our side seam. Once we have, we're going to do a chain up of 2. That chain does not count as a stitch, that's just our turning chain, and all we're going to do is put 1 half double crochet into every stitch, making our way around. So let's all start with a yarn over. Find that first available stitch, insert your hook with 1 half double crochet into the next with another half double crochet, and continue this, making our way all the way around. So I've just made my way all the way around with my first half double crochet row. Now let's close it off together. All we're going to do is count up those 2 chains that we made when we started off this row, slip stitch into that second chain that we made. So insert, pull through everything on our hook, and now our row 1 is finished. So let's get started on our row 2, and that's going to start with a chain 1 and flip our work. Now for everyone, it's going to start with a decrease of 2 back loop singles and then 5 back loop single crochets. So to get started on our decrease, we're all going to find that first stitch from our previous row, making sure that we're not inserting our hook into that first stitch that we have, because that stitch is actually our slip stitch that we just made to close off our previous row. So the easiest way to find our last row is to find that last stitch, trace that all the way up, and finding that top loop, insert into that back loop, pull through. This is our decrease, so we're going to find that following stitch's back loop, insert, pull through, yarn over, pull through all 3, and we're now going to put 1 back loop single crochet into each of the next 5 stitches. And since we all have our 5 back loop single crochets, we're now going to put 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch, leaving 7. And that's 5 for our 5 back loop single crochets that we have to do, and then our 2 decrease of 2 back loop single crochets that we're going to close off the row with. So I made my way all the way around with my back loop half double crochets, and I have left 7 stitches. We're now about to do 5 back loop single crochets and then a decrease of 2 singles. So let's all start by putting 1 back loop single crochet into each of the next 5 stitches. And now that we've put 1 back loop single crochet into every stitch, we should all have 2 stitches left. So now let's do our decrease again. Let's insert into that next back loop, pull through, into that following stitch's back loop, pull through, yarn over, pull through all 3. And to close off our row, we're going to slip stitch into that chain space that we made when we started this row, yarn over, pull through everything. And now from here, we're going to chain 1 and repeat this row. So starting with a decrease of 2 back loop single crochets, 5 back loop singles, and then 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch until we have 7 stitches left. Then to close off the row, 1 back loop single crochet into each of the next 5 stitches, close off the row with a decrease of 2 back loop single crochets, and we're going to continue to repeat this row until this portion is nice and snug around our arm. And once we have that, I will meet you back. So I am back. I have a total of 7 of my rows, and this is just about 2 inches or 5 centimeters, measuring from the bottom, because the bottom is going to be a little bit shorter than the top. Now, since this already fits snug around our arm, we want to continue on with these rows until it becomes completely horizontal on our arm. So all we're going to do is basically the same thing, but now without the decreases at the beginning and at the end of our rows. So from here, all we're going to do is chain 1 and flip our work. So what we're going to do from here is put 1 back loop single crochet for each of the next 5 stitches, remembering that we aren't doing our decreases. And now that we have that, we're going to be putting 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch, leaving 5 so we can close off the row with back loop single crochets as well. So we've made our way all the way around with our back loop half double crochets. We have left 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stitches left, and now we're going to do 5 back loop single crochets. So just insert into that following stitch with a back loop single and continue to reach the end of the row. And now that we have that, just slip stitch into that chain space. And from here, we're now going to continue to repeat this row. So our following rows are going to start and end with 5 back loop single crochets with 1 back loop half double crochet into the rest of our stitches, and that's it. We're going to continue this until our sleeve becomes completely horizontal on our arm, and then I will meet you back. So I am back with the portion of my sleeve that becomes completely horizontal on my arm. I have a total of 15 rows and just about 5 inches or 13 centimeters. Now from here we're going to start working on the length of our sleeve. So from here, all we're going to do is put 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch. No more single crochets and no more decreases for this following section. So since we have slip stitched into that chain space, all we're going to do is chain 2, flip our work, and just put 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch, making our way all the way around, slip stitch into that chain 2, then repeat. We're going to continue to repeat this section of our sleeve, and I'll meet you back just about an inch right above our elbow so that we can start doing our decreases so that we can curve around our elbow and then start working on our bell. Alright, so I have the length of my sleeve all finished up. I now have a total of 23 rows, and that's just about 9 inches or 23 centimeters. And now we're going to do just a few rows of decreases for our back loop half double crochet rows, just to make sure that our sleeve is still staying nice and snug to our arm right before we get started on our bell. So right after we slip stitch into that second chain, we're all going to chain 2 and flip our work. And this is still going to be a half double crochet row. We're just going to start and end it with a decrease of 2. So yarn over, finding that last stitch from our previous row, insert into that back loop, pull through into that next stitch's back loop, pull through, yarn over, pull through all 4, and from here put 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch, leaving the last 2 so we can decrease together once more. So now that we put 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch, we have left the last 2, and now we're just going to close this row off with another decrease of 2. So yarn over, insert your hook into that second to last stitch, pull through, into that last stitch, pull through all 4, and then just slip stitch into that second chain that we made when we started this row. Now from here, we're going to alternate between a decrease row and a regular back loop half double crochet row until we are just about an inch past our elbow, so this portion won't be too long. Just continue to do a decrease into every other row, and I'll meet you back so we can get started on the bell. Alright, so I'm back with the total length of my sleeve. I have a total of 28 rows, that is 11 inches or 28 centimeters, and now from here, since I'm an inch past my elbow, I'm going to start working on the bell. So let's all chain 2 and flip our work. So for our bell sleeve, we're all going to get started with putting 1 back loop half double crochet into each of the next 7 stitches. Then an increase into the 8th stitch, and then we're going to continue on with that increase for every other row until we get the length of the sleeve that we want. So we now have our 7 back loop half double crochets. Into the following, insert with an increase of 2 back loop half double crochets into that same stitch, and all this is going to be is a repeat. So continue on with 1 back loop half double crochet into each of the next 7 stitches. Into the following 8th stitch, another increase of 2 back loop half double crochets, and continue on with that till we reach the end of the row. And just as a really quick tip, say if you have like 4 or 5 or 6 stitches left, that's fine, just put 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch. Our following row is going to be a half double crochet row with no increases and no decreases, and then the row after that is going to be another increase row, exactly the same as this one. So we're just going to have an increase row, a solid row with no increases, another increase row, and each of our increase rows are going to be the same. We're going to continue this until we get the sleeve length that we want. Once we do a chain up of 1 and cut. I am back and the entirety of my bell sleeve is all finished. Now I have a total of 55 rows and my total length is 23.5 inches or 60 centimeters, and all we're going to do from here is repeat everything we did here on the other side. Alrighty, so now that both of our sleeves are all finished up, we're ready to get started on our bottom band. So first things first, let's make sure that our work is flipped right side out, right side up, and then we're going to do a single crochet row along the bottom. So insert your 6mm hook into any one of the side rows along the bottom, and let's insert our yarn onto our hook. We're all going to start by putting 1 single crochet into every side row. So insert, pull through, and do a chain up of 1 to secure. From here, let's all start by finding our following side row, insert in through that top loop with just 1 single crochet. Let's do this again. Into this next side row, into that top loop, insert with another single crochet, and that's it. Continue with one single crochet into every side row. When we make our way all the way around, slip stitch into that chain space. And just as a really quick tip, this single crochet row is going to be as wide as this bottom band can stretch. So once when it's finished, just try on our piece and make sure that it can stretch over us. If it's a little too tight, redo some stitches with a looser grip, or if it's too loose, redo some stitches with a tighter grip. So now that our single crochet row is all finished up, we're now going to make a chain the length that we'd like for our bottom band to be. Now I'd like for mine to be just about 3 inches or 8 centimeters, so I'm going to start by making chain 12. Now that I have my chain, I'm going to block off my last chain and do a chain 1. That chain 1 doesn't count as a stitch, that's our turning chain. And then into that chain that we blocked off, or the second chain from our hook, we're going to insert with a slip stitch. So insert your hook, then we're going to yarn over and pull through both of those loops on our hook. Let's do this again. Into that next chain, insert your hook, and gently pull through both loops. And continue putting one slip stitch into every chain, remembering not to tug too tightly, otherwise the following row could be too tight to work into. Now that we've put one slip stitch into every chain, we're now going to connect it into the base. So finding that next stitch into the base, we're going to insert, yarn over, pull through everything on our hook. And that's how we connect our row 1. Now to work our way up to the row 2, we're going to find that next stitch into the base, insert, pull through everything. Both of those slip stitches into the base don't count as a stitch. And from here we're going to flip our work and now put one back loop slip stitch into every stitch. So finding the last stitch from our previous row, we're going to insert into that back loop, pull through everything, next back loop, and gently pull through everything. And we're going to continue with one back loop slip stitch into every stitch. And at the end of the row, all we're going to do is chain 1, flip our work, and put one back loop slip stitch into every stitch again, and I'll meet you back at the base to connect it just once more. So we are back and we have just finished up our rows 1, 2, and 3. Now that we're at the end of our row 3, we're going to connect it into the base together. So we're all going to start by finding that next stitch into the base, insert with a slip stitch to close off our odd number row. And then just to work our way up to our even number row, slip stitch into that next available stitch into the base, flip our work, and now put one back loop slip stitch into every stitch again. And from here, we're just going to continue to repeat our 2 previous rows with no increases and no decreases until we don't have any more stitches into the base left to work into. When we don't, I'll meet you back so we can seam everything together. So now that we've made our way all the way around with our bottom band, we don't have any more stitches left to work into, so now we're going to do an outside loop slip stitch seam. So let's all make sure that our work is slipped right side out, right side up, and then we're going to insert our hook into that first stitch into the front panel. We're going to find that front loop. And then we're going to find that next stitch into the back panel, find that back loop, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. Let's do that again. Into that next stitch into the front panel, insert into that front loop. Find that next stitch into the back panel, insert into that back loop, yarn over, pull through all 3, and just to do one more. Next stitch into the front panel, insert into that front loop. Next stitch into the back panel, into that back loop, pull through all 3, and continue this until we don't have any more stitches left to work into. When we don't, do a chain up of 1 and cut. Alright, so now that our bottom band is all finished up, the last thing we're going to do is our turtleneck. So let's all start with a single crochet row along our neckline. So let's make sure that our work is flipped right side out, right side up, and we're going to be inserting our same 6mm hook into any one of the stitches that we have along our neckline. Insert our yarn onto our hook, pull through, do a chain up of 1 to secure, and just make your way all the way around, putting one single crochet into every stitch. So our single crochet row along our neckline is all finished, and now we're going to make our turtleneck, and it's actually going to be done exactly the same way as our bottom band, so I'm just going to talk you guys through it really quickly. From here, we're all going to start by making a chain the length that we'd like for our turtleneck to be, keeping in mind that we are going to fold it in half. So I'd like for mine to be roughly 6.5 inches or 17 centimeters. So I made a chain 25. And then from here, we're going to do our slip stitch row, and then back loop slip stitch rows with no increases and no decreases, making our way all the way around. So exactly the same way as our bottom band. And then I'll meet you back when we don't have any more stitches left to work into, so we can seam it all together. So now that we have made our way all the way around with our back loop slip stitch rows for our turtleneck, we're now going to seam it together. So let's all make sure that our work is slipped right side out, right side up, and we're going to be inserting our hook into the corner stitches of both the front and the back panel. Next, we're going to yarn over, pull through everything on our hook, and we're going to do the same seam that we did for the bottom band. So just to do the first one, find that first stitch into the front panel, insert in through that front loop. Find that first stitch into the back panel, insert in through that back loop, yarn over, pull through everything on your hook, and that's it. Continue doing this until we don't have any more stitches left to work into, and when we don't, do a chain up of 1 and cut. And now that everything is all seamed up, we are all done. The last thing we're going to have to do is just weave in all of our ends. And there you have it. Hope y'all enjoyed the tutorial. Join us on Instagram, Pinterest, or Twitter. Those links are down below. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Catch y'all on the next one. Bye!